Hey guys, welcome back. So now we're getting back into the Immortal Hulk, and this time just talking about issue 48, which it hurts to say because there's only 2 more left. Oh. But this one, man, like it really hits deep, and specifically with Joe Fixit, and for a number of reasons, because it really feels like his transformation has taken another step forward, and I love it. So let's just get into it. But first, if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to catch the spills every week, and don't forget to hit that bell up top so we can squad up in the comments for the first hour. Alright, so we're getting into Immortal Hulk issue 48. It initially starts off with this montage of memories between Bruce and Betty. And even with doing this, going back and forth between like your Hulk version of Banner and your regular Betty, or even your hulked out Betty and your hulked out Banner, which I feel like is something we've been going back to quite a bit. Like even with us going back and talking about Immortal Hulk issue 0, which specifically went back to the Incredible Hulk issue 312, which also highlighted and revisited the moment where Bruce and Betty had just met. But with us taking this trip back down memory lane, like it brings us to this point now to where you have Betty expressing her feelings to Joe Fixit, who's at the wheel of Banner's body currently. And with how this is done, like Joe picks up what she's doing pretty quick. And with seeing this, he's very quick to tell her like that he is not Bruce, which once again is one of those things that I beg to argue. And so does Betty in this moment, but clearly she has different motivations than me because I'm not trying to smash Hulk. But it's in this moment where she tells Joe, or she more or less repeats her vows like in sickness and in health, which by the way, it includes multiple personality disorder. So even with Bruce's different personalities, like they all fall under that umbrella. But as far as Joe and like the way he feels about it, like that's kind of the point, because for everything that Betty's expressing or feeling, like those things are for Bruce, like the Bruce Banner Bruce. And in the case of her feeling anything for Joe, he feels like he's way further on down the line as far as Bruce's go. But on top of that, like in this moment, and even with Betty changing from Harpy back to regular Betty, she believes that Bruce is still in there, like in his body, and he just doesn't want to come out. But as we know, like that's not exactly what's going on with Bruce right now. But while they're talking here, Betty goes even further to express how, like even with Bruce dodging her, she also expresses like after she was killed and she came back like in her full red harpy form, that Bruce, he didn't like what he saw, while on the flip side, Joe, he always did. And it's here where Betty points out that that was the difference. And when she says this, like Joe knows that he's not exactly a saint. And before he really goes into it, Betty tries to stop him and she tells him like, don't be Hulk, like don't smash this up as far as this moment and what we have. And right then Joe is just kind of like, damn. Because he kind of knows that he already did. And it's here where Joe goes world breaker on the whole moment. And he tells Betty everything about how Bruce is not in him, but instead Bruce is still in the below place being held captive by the leader. And even though the first time when it happened after the Devil Hulk died, Joe was too weak to do anything. But then when Joe went back and he was miraculously more powerful than ever, and in that moment, which was kind of like a second chance, Joe didn't even try, but instead he just saved himself. And when he tells her all of this, she goes off and she asks him like, you left Bruce in hell? Because of course that's all she heard. Like my man's pouring his heart out here, like you ain't catch none of the rest of that. But then over in the next room you got Jennifer Walters, She-Hulk, and Jackie McGee, who can both hear Betty and Joe arguing in the next room clearly. But even with that being the case, Jennifer figures that this is a better alternative than going with Gamma Flight, which is kind of where things kind of split up when the whole Gamma Flight team had walked away from Henry Gyrich and they decided to do their own thing, which is pretty much use their talents and resources to find different ways to help Gamma mutates. And in a nutshell, that's pretty much like the synopsis for the new Gamma Flight series. But of course, Jennifer and Jackie, they didn't go in that direction because I'm sure that Jennifer, she's gonna go back with the Avengers at some point. And in the case of Jackie, she's still figuring out her new abilities with her recently becoming a Gamma mutate and having the ability to see Gamma energy in its raw form. Which also kind of gives us this funny moment with Jackie looking at Jennifer like she has something on her face, when really she's more so looking at the She-Hulk energy, because she can see Gamma ghosts. But Jennifer also expresses that she feels like the Hulk is the real her anyway. But also while the two of them are out here talking, they more so lean into the conversation of like what's the next move for Jackie, which is kind of the same as what it's been since the Herald had downsized, to where for her instead of just getting demoted she had walked away. But since then, she's been following the plan of finding the story, which is something she gets into a bit deeper here, to where she mentions how she had lost so much, and because of that she's hoping to gain something instead of just losing all the time. But then also Jennifer tells Jackie, like, with asking her what's her plan, Jennifer then tells her, like, you know, when people make plans, God laughs, or so the saying goes. But when Gamma people make plans, God smashes. And when she flips it and says this, like, it kind of throws Jackie, because she's like, okay, like, so your advice is life sucks, wear a radiation suit. But with this coming from Jennifer, it's not so much advice, but rather it's just her expressing what she's come to learn, with her being a Hulk for so long and going through so many changes and even some new discoveries. But from her perspective, to kind of summarize it all, like in her life, Jennifer thought she had things under control, but the Hulk side of her, like that side just knew better, because the unexpected is bound to come around in some shape or form. But then while they're talking and Jennifer hands Jackie her phone, because Jackie's phone wasn't charging, so she just needed it to write down some notes and I guess kind of just email herself. But then also, before Jennifer hands her phone to Jackie, she sends an encrypted message to Ben Grimm, and with doing so really just giving him an update on the Hulk while letting him know that things are chill right now and she's figuring out like what's the next move, but if she needs backup she'll reach out. But then also when we see Ben receive this message and we look like just over his shoulder, he got the whole squad ready for something to pop off, because at this point the Avengers and the Fantastic Four, they're working on their next move too. But after this, then going back to Joe and Betty, and it's here where Joe lets Betty know that he just wanted to be honest with her. And like he could have lied and said like when he went to the below place, he just didn't remember what happened. But then again, as we know, the more often that they visit, then the clearer those memories are. And at this point, he's tired of lying and he just wanted to let her know that when this happened, he just reacted. Him and Savage Hulk got out, Banner was left behind, and what's done is done. But then when he tells her that he's sorry, there's nothing he can do, Betty tells him like, no, like you're not sorry. You don't know how to be sorry. But instead, he's just wearing sorry like it's a mask to hide the true him who truly only really cares about himself. And Betty lets him know like this is one of those things about Joe that she can usually overlook because Joe's the one that makes her happy. But this time and in this moment, like that's not enough, because this also is who Joe is. He's the selfish side of Banner, and he's the side of Banner who hides, just like when Joe was hiding in Las Vegas. And it's also here where Betty feels like Joe is more like Bruce than ever, because just before Joe had dropped this bomb on her, she was just talking about how Bruce was hiding from her. And when Joe hears this from Betty, he tells her that he's done, like he's just done with hiding. And at first when he says this, Betty's kind of like, wait, what, you trying to bust a move now? Like the block is still hot, we need to chill. And Joe was just like, no, first of all, I'm done with hiding from you. And initially Betty doesn't know like what he's talking about, because there's nothing really that he can hide that she hasn't seen already. But it's here like when he gets more specific about what he means, and he tells her how like when he was a kid and his dad used to beat the mess out of him, and afterwards like his dad would just go to sleep and Bruce's mother just wasn't there, but at night he would stay up watching these black and white movies, and in these movies he would always see the quote-unquote grown-up as a guy who could take the beating or someone who could just move along and handle the pain. But really and truly, that was just a kid's idea of what a man is, because also if somebody would rub him the wrong way, Joe would just beat them half to death and maybe enjoy it in the process. But for him, that was also a child's way of thinking of what a man is supposed to be. But then it's here where Joe tells Betty that he just doesn't want to be like that anymore. And when Betty, like, she hears him out, but she's also like, okay, where's this going? And it's here where Joe tells her straight up, I love you. And he lets her know like he doesn't want to not say it anymore. Like he's sick of not saying it. And from there, he even goes deeper into like the system of all the Hulks and how they're all messed up. Like they're dumb, they're angry, and they don't know how to fix it. And within all of them, they have the why Hulk hurts so much quote unquote thing going on, but nobody knows the reason why or the answer to that question. And it's here where Joe tells Betty that he wants to learn, like he wants to be better. And with saying this, Betty kind of hits him with the like, well, do you? But with her saying that, she's once again referring to the things that Joe had done and not necessarily Bruce. But Joe takes it on the chin because he knows Betty's not going to hold back when she needs to say something. But then it's here when Joe starts talking about how since he's been able to come out in the day, like since we got the whole Sunshine, Joe Fixit, and since then he's been thinking more about people and just more things in general. And he tells her that that feels good. But then also, just because that feels good and he's having these good thoughts and having these good perspectives on different things, like that then makes him wonder like if he's a good person now. And with saying this, he turns around and asks Betty like if she thinks that he's a good person, but then by the time he turns around, Betty's gone. And like when this happens, he goes in the next room and he tells She-Hulk and Jackie like Betty took off. And when this happens, they barely react because Betty been taking off like this whole series. So really that's nothing new. But then also when Joe walks in the room and Jackie asks him like what's the move, what's the plan? And it's here where he tells her like ever since Shadow Base fell, like ever since then he's been hiding and letting the world come after him and just reacting to everything that's been going on. And he tells Jackie right here like that ain't him no more. And it's here where he tells her that no one is a good person and that nobody is anything but what they've done and what they've got done. And with saying that, it's time to get things done. And it's here where he tells them it's time to go find Bruce, ready or not. And man, let me tell you, like when this happens, like this is deep, man. Like the entire process of Joe maturing and even making the choice to change. Like to me, that alone is more powerful than any like physical power buff that you could give any character any day. And so now real quick, I want to give a special shout out to all the patrons. Thank you guys for all of your support. And for anyone who's new here who wants more information on how to support the channel, I got a link below so you can go to patreon.com/dopespill. But that'll do it for this one, guys. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and we'll do it again in the next one. Alright, later.